Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving into something absolutely fascinating, the unified, majestic biological framework that connects your nervous system, deep sleep, and your long-term cognitive longevity. We so often treat sleep, stress, and aging like they're entirely separate buckets of human health, right? But as we're about to see, they are intimately connected. They are part of one tightly integrated bidirectional system, and the crazy part is, your small, everything habits are literally remodeling your brain's architecture and actively dictating your lifespan.
So let me start off by asking you a profound question. Can we measure the exact speed at which you are aging? Let's really think about this, because aging isn't just about chronological time passing. It's not just the number of candles on your birthday cake. It is entirely about the accumulation of biological stress and cellular damage. Two people can be exactly 50 years old, but inside, their tissues, their organs, their neural networks might be aging at wildly different rates. The speed at which you age is entirely dependent on the invisible wear and tear your biological systems have endured. To put this into perspective, longevity pioneer Dr. Steve Horvath points out that biological aging at the cellular level is driven by what he calls a flattening of the methylation landscape. Now, what does that actually mean? Well, think of your epigenome as a set of chemical tags that act like a complex switchboard controlling your DNA. In a young, healthy cell, these tags form incredibly sharp peaks and valleys, controlling exactly which genes are turned on and which are turned off. But over time, due to accumulated stress and damage, this vibrant landscape flattens out. It loses its sharp precision, and that is what fundamentally causes cellular dysfunction and aging.
Okay, let's move into Section 1, the epigenetic aging clock, tracking the memory of cellular damage. What's really mind-blowing here is that modern science can now actually quantify this invisible wear and tear on your body. We don't have to guess how well someone is aging anymore. Scientists are now using advanced second-generation epigenetic clocks, like GrimAge, to accurately predict mortality risk. And GrimAge is fascinating because it doesn't just count your birthdays. It literally reads the molecular memory of your long-term biological stress. It tracks the DNA methylation patterns linked to your exposure to chronic inflammation. It's a direct, measurable molecular readout of your cumulative biological strain.
Let's dive into Section 2. How stress rewires the brain, the HPA axis, and the chemical assault. When we zoom in on the brain, we can clearly see how chronic systemic stress physically accelerates your neurological aging process. There's a massive difference between an acute, healthy survival response and chronic dysfunction. Your rapid SAM axis uses a quick burst of epinephrine to help you dodge a speeding car. That's a good thing. But your slow HPA axis is different. When it gets chronically activated by the constant, low-level psychological stress of modern life, it relentlessly floods your neural networks with cortisol. And that sustained, unending exposure is exactly what drives chronic neuroinflammation and actual structural damage over time. In fact, when that cortisol exposure is sustained over a long period, it leads to a condition clinically known as a positive brain age gap. This is a metric where machine learning models analyze your MRI scans and reveal that your brain physically looks and functions much older than your actual age. It's a sobering realization that chronic stress isn't just all in your head, psychologically speaking. It is visibly, structurally degrading your biological hardware.
Because of this, chronic stress becomes a destructive physical force that shrinks your hippocampus, which is the absolute command center in your brain for learning and memory. Because the hippocampus has a high density of glucocorticoid receptors, it is uniquely vulnerable to this cortisol flood. So way before you ever even think about something like dementia, this damage shows up in your daily life as brain fog, poor memory, and a reduced ability to focus. Chronic stress is actively destroying your synaptic spines and stripping away the vital cognitive reserve you absolutely need to fend off decline later in life. So the absolutely crucial takeaway here is that this hormonal toxicity acts as a cellular multiplier. It actively drives the amyloidogenic processing that leads to Alzheimer's pathology. Prolonged cortisol actually downregulates a protective receptor called RMR1 and simultaneously ramps up an enzyme called BACE1. This directly fuels the rapid accumulation of neurotoxic amyloid beta proteins in your brain. You are quite literally creating the aggressive biochemical environment for neurodegeneration. This brings us right to Section 3, the glymphatic wash cycle, the brain's hidden repair mechanism. Now, you might be wondering, how on earth does the human brain survive this daily chemical assault? The answer lies in a massive 60% expansion of space. Every single night, your brain cells literally shrink down to create a 60% increase in your interstitial space. This makes room for a dramatic, deeply restorative physiological event that is absolutely essential for your cognitive survival. We can actually map out this precise biological sequence. During deep sleep, cerebrospinal fluid aggressively washes through your neural tissue. It flows through specialized aquaporin 4 channels located on your astrocytes, actively flushing out those toxic amyloid beta proteins and metabolic waste products that built up during your stressful waking hours. It is quite literally an intense, high-powered central nervous system power wash. But here is the massive catch. This vital neurodetox cycle cannot happen if you are just tossing and turning. It occurs almost exclusively during deep, slow-wave NREM sleep. So if your sleep architecture is fragmented, or if you're constantly burning the midnight oil and artificially shortening your sleep, you are systematically denying your brain its one and only opportunity to clear out the toxic debris of the day. All right, let's explore Section 4, the vagal nerve brake, the autonomic master switch. How do we guarantee our nervous system actually calms down enough to allow us to enter that deep restorative NREM state? Well, we have to purposefully shift our biology. The sympathetic nervous system is your danger mode. It keeps you hypervigilant, inflamed, and breathing shallowly into your chest. We have to transition away from that and activate the parasympathetic nervous system. That's your rest and digest mode, which actively turns on the cholinergic anti-inflammatory pathway, sends safety signals, and prepares your brain for deep recovery. This magical biological shift is controlled by the vagus nerve. It's the longest cranial nerve in your body, and it acts as a massive bidirectional communication highway. We often think of the brain as the ultimate boss controlling the body, right? But it goes the other way too. Your bodily organs, specifically the rhythmic, deep expansion of your lungs, send undeniable physiological signals of safety straight up this nerve and right into your hyperactive brainstem. This is why we talk about vagal tone. Having high vagal tone means your autonomic nervous system acts like a master brake pedal. It's your body's ability to quickly and seamlessly extinguish the sympathetic fire once a daily threat has passed. If you have low vagal tone, your brain stays revved up, hyperalert, and inflamed long after the stressor is gone, which completely derails your ability to power down and reach deep sleep. And this beautifully illustrates exactly how simple daily behaviors can physically alter your deep biology. Respiratory vagal nerve stimulation, which is essentially diaphragmatic breathing with a 1-to-2 inhale to exhale ratio, like a 4-second inhale and an 8-second exhale, chemically suppresses neuroinflammation in real time. Just by prolonging your exhale, you are literally lowering pro-inflammatory cytokines like IL-6 and TNF-alpha, commanding your brain to feel safe. Let's tie all these complex systems together in Section 5, Reversing the Biological Clock, a unified protocol for healthy aging. To optimize your epigenetic clocks and fully flush out those dangerous stress metabolites, you really have to engineer your nights. First, you need to achieve deep NREM stages 3 and 4 paired with incredibly consistent circadian timing. Surprisingly, research shows that a lateral or side sleeping position actually maximizes that lymphatic flow. You also need absolutely zero alcohol in your bloodstream because alcohol actively suppresses slow-wave sleep. And finally, you want to align all of this with your 2 a.m. physiological melatonin peak, which gives you a massive secondary boost for clearing out free radicals. Ultimately, protecting your deep sleep and optimizing your vagal tone is the most scientifically rigorous way to halt the cellular damage that drives aging. Sleep is definitely not just a passive break from consciousness. It is an active, aggressive, and utterly essential biological intervention. It's the ultimate biochemical antidote, the very mechanism your body relies on to clean the slate and rewind the damage of modern life. So as we step back and look at the majestic complexity of our neural networks, I want to leave you with this final thought to consider tonight. Are your hidden daily habits and your autonomic states aging your brain, or are they actively rewinding the clock? Because every deep breath you take and every single night of prioritized deep sleep is a profound opportunity to flush away the stress of the day and protect your mind for the decades to come.